So here is the second scrap box that I got this week, completely by accident because I'd forgotten that I'd already ordered one. There's a small, well actually it's a fairly big pile of learn to sew bits in this one. There were no absolutely tiny scraps that would be useless, but what I liked about this was seeing this fabric. Would I like to buy it? Yes, it's quite pretty, but it's a little bit thin and see-through. This made me laugh because it's kind of two bits of fabric joined together with little plastic cable ties. But again, you can learn to sew that very thin knit. This is lovely. It's quilted and it's got little gold spots on it. It would definitely be worth trying sewing on that just to see what it's like sewing through those gold spots. But I'm not going to risk messing my machine up doing that because I would never buy that fabric anyway. Though those are, you can't make anything with them, but they're great for a first practice on a different type of fabric, and it's great to see some of the fabrics in real life. The next pile is the scrunchies pile, which is pieces like this, sort of not very wide. There seems to be an awful lot of this very thin knit going around at the moment. I don't really like this, but again, it gives you a chance to see what's available. There's always chiffon. This is two pieces of double gauze sewn together, but again, good practice. But you could possibly get a scrunchie out of that. There's three slippery shiny pieces. I'll show the other one in a second. But they would make nice scrunchies. That's a pale blue satiny one. And this is quite see-through, but it is pretty. And it would definitely make a scrunchie. This, there's absolutely nothing I would do with this except it's really pretty and it's lovely to see in real life what it looks like. It's very, very shiny. The flowers are beautiful on it. It stretches, but there's only a bit of give top to bottom, but it stretches across the fabric. So that is fabulous just to see what it looks like. It's quite thick. I don't know what it's for. I don't know what sort of fabric it is. These are the big bits that knits and things that I would probably never use. There's a piece of tubular cuffing in a sort of browny grey sort of colour. Some cotton lycra, thin jersey fabric. This is a big piece. You'd probably get something out of that, and an actual garment. Definitely these are useful for making dollies thingies. You could get some little sleeves out of that for a t-shirt. That's I think that's an Oxford poly cotton. Again, that piece was big enough to make something. Another piece of thin jersey. This is very thin. It's sort of, I think it's a linen look. There's no stretch that way, but there's a little stretch in that direction. Again, some very thin, stretchy fabric. This is a thick stretch that you would use for making cardigans, and it is rather nice. But to be honest, you could probably make a skirt with that. You wouldn't lose that on a dark night. Very stretchy, very thin. This is pretty. It is stretchy. So I'm not sure what you do. It just give that way. There's a lot of stretch across. I don't know what you would do with something like that, but that was a fairly big piece. You could make something, maybe a little top or something. More of this thin jersey in a couple of colours. This is a really big piece, the pink one. This one is 36 inches. So you'd definitely get something of that, even if it was only a 90. And again, the purple is a fairly big bit, not as big as the pink. This feels like velvet. And so does this. And somebody told me last time what it was, but I can't remember. It's stretchy, but not this way. Not sure what you would do with those, but they are quite big pieces, and maybe dolly clothes. You often get this stretchy sort of knit fabric, and I've seen people buy this and dye it so they get different colours, and it usually is quite effective. Maybe something for a dolly out of that, or if you already had some and you just needed an extra piece. This is really nice. It reminds me of the sort of things that my mum and my mother-in-law used to make, cardigans, but it would actually make a very nice little jumper or dress for a little girl, or possibly a small cardie for somebody. This is stretchy as well, and again you wouldn't lose it on a dark night, but there's it's not as big as it looks because there's a piece cut out, but again, dolly clothes, absolutely fine. A piece of velvet. This is a fairly big piece of velvet. This one doesn't have any stretch to it. Chiffon, the bog standard white see-through stuff. That one, the sort of crinkle look stretch one. Little bit of the stretch suede. This has got a flaw in it, so you wouldn't get an awful lot out of it. I've no idea what this is. I don't know if it's just incredibly creased or if it's supposed to be crinkly looking, and I really can't be bothered with it just because of that. This looks like the carpet in the bottom of a car, but it obviously isn't because it's stretchy, and it's completely plain red on the back. I'm sure somebody will recognise it, be able to tell me what it is. This I got in off-white and pale blue. I got a couple of pieces in pale blue. You'd get nighties out of those, or little tops. They were big pieces. This is stretchy. It's quite nice, and this piece is big enough. I've wrapped it around myself. I could make a skirt out of that. I don't wear skirts, but I could make a skirt out of it if I wanted to. So that would be extremely useful for somebody who would actually like a stretchy check skirt. It's 30 inches long. This is nice, stretchy with sort of snowflakey pattern on it. Unfortunately, it's got a dirty mark which may or may not wash off. But it's a big piece. It's again, that one's 30 inches. So very useful if that's the sort of thing you're after. And it is nice fabric, it's quite thick if you were considering getting it. I've seen a lot of this one come up in other people's boxes, and I got 3 pieces, the biggest of which is 25 inches. But combining them, you could definitely make a cardigan out of that. That one's 21 inches. And then there's a smaller piece of 8 inches. So that's really useful. It feels nice. It's very soft. It's not see-through, but it's very lightweight. And I would consider making myself a cardigan with that if I was into making cardigans at the moment, but I'm not. Moving on to cotton lycra. Got 3 very nice pieces. That's a fairly big piece in a browny colour, but you could combine these two or you could combine these two to make a t-shirt. I'm fairly sure there's enough in those. Might even get 2 t-shirts out of that with careful combining. There's a piece of fleece-backed sweatshirt in a really nice Air Force blue. It's about 15 inches. Might be able to get a pair of shorts or something for a little boy out of that. But it feels nice, it's very good quality. And you often get some of this cable knit in various colours. I've had loads of pieces of it. This one has a very wonky cut along it, so you'd have to plan that one carefully. But at the widest it's 24 inches and at the narrowest it's 18 inches. Again, it's usable. So in that box there's a huge amount of fabric that will be perfectly usable to anybody who wasn't me. But there are some pieces that I would use. I haven't checked these out to see if they're cotton or polycotton. Of course, if they're polycotton, I will ditch them. But these might be useful for you in school. So there's a little piece of dinosaurs, which is 10 inches. A small piece of unicorns, which is 5 inches. I'm thinking the girls in school might want to make themselves scrunchies with this. This is very cute little dinosaur fabric, and that one there's 13 inches. I got this before and I've already given that other piece away. If I'd kept it I probably could have made something really useful with it. But again, I might take that one into school and the children might like it. And that piece is 17 inches. They want to make tote bags next term, so one of them might want to make a little Halloween tote bag. I'm glad I got this just to see what it's like. It's very pretty and I might consider buying more. It is a Rose and Hubble. There is, let's go measure it that way because I'm having a brain freeze this morning. That's 7 inches. That one will make a couple of little purses. I got this. I got this in a box a few weeks back and I really liked it, so I bought some meterage of that and it's really, really nice. And that piece is 10 inches, so there are small clutch bags I could make with that. I have to be honest, I don't particularly like this fabric. I didn't like it on the website and I don't like it in real life either. It's just not the colourway that I like. I hung on to this one to show you that this was actually 2 pieces stitched together. You quite often get those. Will I keep this? I don't know. I think not, because I think I've already got so much fabric that I don't need it. This is a piece of batik. I love the patterns on the batik. It's so pretty, but it very clearly states that it shrinks. And I know all cotton products shrink, but the fact that they've pointed out that this shrinks is a little bit worrying. So again, I'm not quite sure what to do with that. I just think it's really lovely, but I think if I made purses with it, it will be fine. Very cute little dinosaurs. Again, not quite sure if that's cotton or polycotton, but I want to look it up because if it's cotton I might buy some of that. This is just a little bit odd. Not really my cup of tea, but I might make purses out of that. And I think quite often I get men wanting a little purse, and a lot of the things I've got are a bit too flowery for them, so that might be useful. This, I'm not entirely sure why I kept this in this pile, to be honest, because I do think this is polycotton. But again, this is another piece that's been stitched. I'll check if it's polycotton or if it's cotton. I think it's polycotton. And again, the bats, I think that might be polycotton. I've got to check. It feels stiff, and I don't know why, but I think polycotton often does feel stiffer than cotton when you buy it, but I may be completely wrong about that. So, yes, this is a fabulous box, but it wasn't a fabulous box for me. because there's actually very little in there that I want. And in all honesty, I would quite happily give all of this away, and I probably will end up doing that, apart from that, just because I've already got that fabric, that because I'll make a purse with it, or purses, that because I'll take it into school for the children, and that because I might make purses that, or little wallets that men might like, or something a little bit more manly, because I don't have a huge amount of manly fabric. And I don't know, maybe I'll keep that. I could use those card holders. Actually, I could use both of those for making those playing card holders, so they will be useful. But I think probably all the rest of it will actually go. So, not a huge haul for me, but actually that was an incredibly good scrap box, considering they say that the pieces will be up to 35 centimetres, and those clearly were a lot more than that.